I always believe that education is very important. I think that you know, we can't afford to be ignorant, especially in our community, because ignorance kills. Right? Is education a priority? Should it be a priority? Some people are saying that education doesn't matter. You know, you don't need a college education otherwise, you know, to move forward, to be successful. And I think that part of the conversation has been colored by those people like the people that built Facebook or Amazon and all these other people that say, well, look, he had a high school diploma, or he had, you know, look at Bill Gates and all these people. They didn't have all this education. But how many people that tried to be like those people were successful versus that failed? And so the average everyday person that needs to be able to survive in this economy, how well are they going to do versus having a college education versus a high school education?
Yeah, well, that's a discussion now in terms of the economists as to, are you better off with an expensive college education or are you not? And the studies still show, even from the liberal or the conservative economists, that you're much better off with an education than, even though the costs of education are high. A college graduate with a baccalaureate is over a lifetime will make about $350,000 more than a person without one. And that college education is not costing you $350,000. It's very simple. But what is key here is the problem in the country in terms of the 1%, the people who at the top, despite the education issue, manage to squeeze out 25% of the total income of the country. And why does this happen? So economists look at it. Does it mean education is irrelevant here? No, there are many other factors that affect that. But education, I don't care what it boils down to, is vital in terms of success, or your chance of success in the country.
What if college doesn't work for me, Lori? What if it doesn't work for me? What if I'm more astute at using my hands and creating things? I mean, shouldn't there be some alternative to that?
Well, I think, you know, and I think trade schools and things of that nature are good options, because, you know, if you look at some of the union wages, they're not doing too bad. You know, you can be a plumber and electrician and do relatively well. But I think that two things need to be considered, in my opinion. One thing is that college does give you a sense of discipline. It gives you a sense of an idea of how to structure yourself, how to regulate yourself, things of that nature. And I think that's some of the qualities that a lot of companies look for. Aside from that, at this point in this economy, it's actually a reason not to give you a job, because a lot of jobs that previously did not require a college education say, well, you have to have at least 2 years of college or something of that nature before they'll even look at your resume. So I think the price in terms of the $350,000 increase over what you would have made is actually more, because if you don't have a job, period, you know, multiply 10 years of unemployment to 10 years of having employment, even at a minimal job, $40,000 a year or something of that nature, you're still going to be ahead of the game. So I think we really have to consider it. I think the bigger question, and I understand the concerns of the financial, going into college and getting a huge bill and paying off student loans over an extended period of time, are a concern. But that's a whole other argument. That's the argument of whether or not they're inflating the costs of going to college so that it's unrealistic for people to go there and get that education.
So what is the alternative to helping people afford to go to college? I mean, in other countries, again, they put a high price on education, and when you look at Britain, they were complaining about, hey, you know, most of them can go from to what I don't know what their level of college, because I think it's a different way they structure it. But most of them can go to school for very, very little. Recently, of course, that changed because of the economy and stuff. But even then, when in comparison to the United States, it's still way cheaper. And so these countries are putting more value on education than we are. And so why are we surprised that people are saying that I can't afford it? There's an economic downturn. We're just starting to come back, and people don't have that extra money to say that they can afford that when they have to pay the light bill, they have to pay the grocery bill, they have to take care of their kids.
You use the word we. I'm a black man on the show, and I want to scream.
Okay.
I want to scream about something.
Okay.
There's a biannual report card that's given nationwide.
Okay.
That evaluating children could give tests and see
Right.
where they come from. And they have in the report percent of proficient or above.
Right.
In the 4th grade math, the percent of American Indians who are proficient or above is 23%. Asian is 64%. Hispanic is 26, white is 54. Black, 18%. Now, we're dealing with in a technological age. We're moving into a lot of high tech. If you're looking at, you don't need these statistics to tell you that you look around and you see ABB going on. Anybody but black in areas dealing with high tech,
Right.
dealing with high paying jobs, and with this is at the level of failure that we have to address, and I want to scream about it. In the 8th grade reading, you have whites 46% proficient, Hispanic 22, Asian 52, American Indian 19, but black 17%. Where do we go from here? We have to look at the underlying issues that are afflicting our community, because what we're talking about today is the same thing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. What is it going to be 20 years from now? Any different? No. So we have to really look at the perilous situation that we are in, because what we're talking about in terms of the economics, we say we include the broader picture, but what about the we, us?
Well, but you know the thing I want to ask a question about, Lori. I mean, what is the difference in the black community versus the white and the Hispanic community in terms of our value of education? I mean, when you look at those people, the role models that are out there, how many people are out there touting somebody to be a scientist, to be? I don't hear anybody rapping about scientists now. I don't hear anybody on TV talking about you can be this or that. I see that people are being pushed into a small structure of thugism. That's the only thing you can do, and the only thing that thugs do is rap. You know, every time I turn around, when I talk to young people, the first thing out of their mouth is, "I want to be a rapper." Why? Why don't you want to be the producer or the person that because they're the one that make the money. Most of the rappers will tell you that all of the stuff that you see is fake, is not real, it's rented, and they don't own those cars, they don't own those houses. All that is this imagery, and you're buying into that imagery, and you're trying to create an image of yourself. And again, I always say, who's controlling that image? It's corporate America. So I went on my rant now. You can go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, and I think young people have to understand the importance of education. They have to understand the importance of knowledge for knowledge's sake, because you want to learn things just to learn and to grow. And I think that's probably connected to what you're saying about the other countries that are developing, making sure that you can get an affordable education, because they recognize that's a feather in their cap. You know, if you have a top scientist coming out of your country or something of that nature, those are all things that are really positive towards your country. So we should be doing things that make it easier for people to get an education than worse. And to connect to what Bert says, you know, not only do we have to recognize the importance of education, but we have to have some perspective. I know I was talking to my niece, and she was telling me about what percentile she did, you know, how she did on the PSATs. And I said to her, I don't care what your percentile is, you know, because how much better you did than the rest of the people doesn't matter, because if the rest of the people didn't do well, you know, even if you're in the 95th percentile, that means nothing to me. I want to know what your score is in terms of from a perfect score and what you lost points on. So we have to look at the importance of getting the grade and getting the proper education as opposed to some of these other things that are more insignificant.